Welcome to Forbidden Desires channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. The scent of freshly brewed coffee wafts through our open concept kitchen, mingling with the crisp morning air that seeps, and through the slightly ajar window I'm standing at the counter, my fingers tapping out a rhythm on my phone as I scroll through the latest analytics for our startup's social media accounts. Each like, share, and comment feels like a small victory, a testament to the vibrant community we've built online. I glance up, catching sight of Michael through the doorway. He's in his usual spot at the dining table, his laptop open, fingers flying over the keyboard. His focus is intense, a look I've come to admire. And if I'm honest, envy. There's something magnetic about his dedication, the way he dives into his work with such passion. It's one of the many reasons I fell in love with him. Murphy, our golden retriever, pads over to me, his tail wagging so hard it's a blur. I reach down to scratch behind his ears, his first soft under my fingertips. Morning, buddy. I murmur, and he responds with a happy bark, his eyes bright with the promise of a new day. As I pour myself a cup of coffee, my mind drifts to the weekend we just had. We escaped to Napa, just the three of us, leaving the hustle of Silicon Valley behind for a brief respite. The vineyards, the wine tastings, the quiet dinners under the stars. It was perfect, or so I thought. I'd take a sip of my coffee, the warmth spreading through me. But it does little to dispel the chill that started to settle in my bones. There's a nagging feeling, like a whisper at the edge of my consciousness, something I can't quite grasp. It's not just the usual Monday morning blues. Something deeper, something unsettling. Michael stands stretching his back to me as he heads towards the kitchen. Morning, deaths, he says, his voice warm but distracted. He grabs his own coffee, his eyes not meeting mine. Morning, I reply, forcing a smile. Big day at work, he nods, taking a gulp of his coffee. Yeah, we've got a major update going live. It's all hands on deck. I watch him, noting the tension in his shoulders, the way his eyes dart away. When he talks about work, it's not unusual for him to be stressed, but there's an edge to it today, a sharpness that wasn't there before. As he turns to leave, I call out, "Hey, Michael." He pauses, looking back, his expression guarded. "Yeah, nothing," I say quickly, shaking my head. "Just have a good day." He nods, a brief smile flickering across his face before he disappears back to his work. I sit down at the table, my coffee cooling in front of me. The house feels too quiet, the silence heavy with unspoken words. I pull out my phone again, this time not to check work but to look at the photos from our weekend. There's one of us, Michael's arm around me, both of us laughing at something silly. But as I swipe through, I notice something in the background of one photo, a woman, her face obscured but her posture familiar. A chill runs down my spine. I zoom in, but the image blurs, not giving me any clarity. My heart races, my mind racing with possibilities, none of them comforting. I push the phone away, my appetite for coffee gone. The perfect life we've built, the love we share, the laughter, it all feels like it's teetering on the edge of something. I can't see something I'm not prepared for. Murphy nudges my hand, seeking attention, and I stroke his head absent-mindedly. "What's going on, Murphy?" I whisper, more to myself than to him. "What's happening to us?" The day stretches ahead, filled with meetings and deadlines. But all I can think about is that photo, that woman, and the storm brewing beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life. Started innocently enough. Kale had been working late nights on a critical project, leaving me with more time to myself than usual. I found solace in long walks with Murphy in the local park, where the quietude and the rustling leaves provided a peaceful escape from my hectic work life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I decided to take Murphy to a secluded pavilion, a place where we could enjoy the tranquility away from the usual parkgoers. As we approached the pavilion, I noticed a figure sitting alone on one of the benches. The silhouette was familiar, yet out of context. My heart skipped a beat. When I recognized her, it was the woman from the photo, the one whose face was obscured but whose posture was unmistakable. I slowed my pace, my mind racing. What was she doing here? Was this a coincidence, or was there more to it? Murphy, oblivious to my sudden tension, bounded forward, eager to make a new friend. The woman looked up, her eyes meeting mine, and for a moment time seemed to freeze dusts. She called out, her voice carrying a mix of surprise and recognition. I knotted my throat tight. "Do I know you?" I managed to ask. Though I already suspected the answer, she stood up, brushing off her jeans. "I'm Laura and I work with Michael." She explained, her tone hesitant, as if she was choosing her words carefully. My stomach churned. Emma. The name was new, but the situation was all too familiar. "Oh, right. Michael mentioned you." I lied, trying to gauge her reaction. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, we've been working closely on the project. It's been intense." I nodded, the pieces of the puzzle starting to fit together in a way I didn't want them to. "I see. Well, it's nice to meet you," I said, my voice sounding hollow, even to my own ears. Emma glanced at Murphy, who is now sniffing around her feet. "He's adorable. Michael talks about him a lot." Her words felt like a knife twisting. I forced a smile. "He's a good boy, keeps me company." When Michael's busy, there was a pause, an awkward silence filled with unspoken questions. Emma broke it first. "I was just taking a break from work. It's been a long day." I nodded, understanding all too well the weight of long days. "Yeah, Michael's been putting in a lot of hours, too." She looked at me, her gaze lingering, a moment too long. "It's not easy. Is it when work takes over everything?" I wanted to scream, to ask if it was just work that was taking over, but instead I just said no. "It's not." We stood there, the evening air cooling around us. I could feel the distance growing, not just between Emma and me, but between Michael and me. Trust that had once been so solid now felt fragile, like a thin sheet of ice underfoot. "I should get back," Emma said, finally gathering her things. "It was nice to finally meet you." "Des." "Likewise," I replied, watching her walk away, her figure blending into the DES. As she disappeared from view, I sat down on the bench that would cold against my back. Murphy came over, resting his head on my lap. Sensing my distress, I stroked his spur, my mind replaying every interaction with Michael. Every late night, every distracted conversation the park was emptying. Now the sounds of the day fading into the quiet of the night. I felt alone. Despite Murphy's comforting presence, the realization that my life might be built on a foundation of secrets was overwhelming. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the photos again. There she was, Emma, in the background of our perfect weekend. My heart ached with the betrayal. The lies, the life we had built that now seemed like a house of cards ready to collapse. I whispered to Murphy, "What do we do now, buddy?" Question hung in the air unanswered as the last light of day faded, leaving me in the shadows of doubt and uncertainty. As I sat there, the pavilion was deserted, the perfect setting for introspection. The wooden bench creaked under me as I shifted, watching Murphy chase after squirrels with a kind of innocent joy. I envied my mind, wandered to the pressures of my job, the distance growing between Michael and me, and the loneliness that had begun to seep into my heart. In a moment of vulnerability, I found myself confiding in Murphy, sharing my fears and frustrations as if he could understand. "Murphy," I whispered, my voice barely above the rustling leaves. "I feel like I'm losing him, like we're drifting apart, and I don't know how to stop it." Murphy, ever the faithful companion, stopped his game to look at me, his tail wagging slowly, his eyes full of concern. Or at least that's what I chose to believe. I reached out, pulling him into a hug, feeling his warmth against me. What happened next was a blur, a moment of confusion and misguided affection. In the dim light of the pavilion, with no one around, I crossed a line I never imagined I would. I kissed Murphy, not the gentle, playful kisses I'd given him countless times before, but something different. Something born out of a desperate need for connection, for comfort. The moment it happened, a wave of guilt crashed over me, mingling with the shock of my actions. I pulled back, my heart pounding, my mind racing with the implications of what I'd just done. The silence of the pavilion seemed to grow heavier, the shadows darker. I sat back, my hands trembling as I tried to process the enormity of my mistake. This wasn't just about seeking comfort. It was a betrayal not just of Michael but of the very essence of who I was. I looked at Murphy, his expression unchanged, still loyal, still loving, oblivious to the turmoil within me. "Oh, Murphy," I murmured, my voice breaking. "What have I done?" The realization hit me like a physical blow. This act, however misguided, had changed everything. It wasn't just about the physical act itself, but what it represented, a fracture in my moral compass, a sign of how far I had strayed from the person I thought I was. I stood up, pacing my thoughts, a whirlwind. How could I face Keel now? How could I look into his eyes without seeing this moment replayed in my mind? The trust we had already strained now felt like it was hanging by a thread. I needed to think, to plan, to understand what this meant for us. I couldn't go back home immediately. Not like this. I walked Murphy at my heels through the park, the night air cool against my flesh skin. Each step felt like I was walking away from my old life towards something unknown, something terrifying. Park was quiet, the usual sounds of life replaced by the soft whisper of leaves and the occasional hoot of an owl. I found myself at the edge of the park, looking out over the city lights. Here, in the anonymity of the night, I felt both lost and strangely free. I sat down on a bench, pulling out my phone. My thumb hovered over Michael's contact, but I couldn't bring myself to call. Instead, I texted Emma, the woman from the photo, the one who had unknowingly become a catalyst in this unfolding drama. "Hey Emma, it's Des. Can we talk?" The message sent. I waited, my heart in my throat. Emma's reply came quickly, a simple "sure" when. "Tomorrow." I typed back at the cafe near the park. Noon. With that, I stood up, feeling the weight of my decision. I had to confront this, not just the kiss with Murphy, but the underlying issues in my relationship with Michael. The loneliness, the doubts, the infidelity I suspected but couldn't prove. As I walked back towards home, Murphy by my side, I knew I was walking into a storm, but it was a storm I had to face. The line I crossed in the pavilion wasn't just about a kiss. It was about acknowledging the cracks in my life, the need for change, for truth, no matter how painful. The night stretched ahead, dark and uncertain. But within it, there was a glimmer of resolve. I would meet Emma. I would talk to Michael, and I would find out where we stood, where I stood. Because if I didn't, I feared I'd lose not just Michael but myself in the process. The aftermath was immediate. Guilt washed over me like a tidal wave. I couldn't look at Murphy the same way. Nor could I face Michael without feeling a deep sense of betrayal. I started avoiding both, making excuses to stay late at work or taking Murphy for walks alone, ensuring we never returned to that pavilion. My once vibrant posts on social media became mechanical. My interactions with Michael stilted and forced. One evening, Michael noticed my change in demeanor. "Destiny, what's wrong? You've been so distant," he asked with concern in his eyes. The weight of my secret felt like a boulder on my ch******t, threatening to crush me if I didn't speak up. I took a deep breath, the words heavy on my tongue. I've been feeling off, Michael. There's something I need to talk to you about." He set his laptop aside, his full attention now on me. "What is it, duh? You can tell me anything." The room felt too small, the air too thick. I wanted to tell him everything about Emma, about the photo, about my own misguided actions, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I said, "I've just been overwhelmed with work, and I guess it's getting to me." Michael reached for my hand, his touch familiar, yet now laden with the weight of my unspoken secrets. "We've both been so caught up in our projects. Maybe we need a break just to reconnect." His suggestion felt like a lifeline, yet I knew it was a temporary fix. "Yeah, maybe," I murmured, not meeting his eyes. The next day, I met Emma at the cafe near the park. The place was bustling with the midday crowd, a stark contrast to the solitude of the pavilion. Emma was already there, her expression guarded as she saw me approach. "Thanks for meeting me." I started, my voice barely above the hum of the cafe. She nodded, her coffee cup clutched tightly. "Course, what's this about, Des?" I took a moment gathering my thoughts. "I saw you in a photo from our Napa trip. It was unexpected." Emma's eyes widened slightly. Then she sighed, looking down at her coffee. "I didn't know you were there. Michael and we've been working closely on this project. It's been intense." The confirmation of their closeness felt like a punch to the gut. "Just work?" I asked, my voice betraying my hurt. She hesitated, then met my gaze. "Mostly work, but deaths. I need to be honest. There have been moments where it felt like more than just work." Confession was like a key, turning in a lock, opening up a floodgate of emotions. "And Michael, how does he feel about these moments?" Emma looked away, her discomfort palpable. "I think he's confused, Des. He cares about you deeply, but the stress, the late nights, it's a lot." I felt the room spin slightly, the noise of the cafe fading into a distant buzz. "So what now? What happens to us?" She reached across the table, her hand hovering near mine but not touching. "I think you need to talk to him, really talk. He needs to know how you feel, and you deserve to know where you stand." The meeting with Emma left me with more questions than answers. I walked back to our apartment, each step feeling like I was walking towards an inevitable confrontation. When I got home, Michael was already there. His laptop closed, a rare sight. He looked up as I entered, his eyes searching mine. "How is your day?" I sat down beside him, the distance between us feeling like a chasm. "I met Emma," I said, watching his reaction closely. His face paled slightly, but he nodded. "I see, and she told me about the project, about how close you've been working together." My voice was steady, but inside I was trembling. Michael looked down, his fingers tracing the edge of the table. The I cut him off, the words spilling out. "Michael, I need to know. Are you in love with her?" The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "I've been confused. Yes, the project, the time we've spent together. It's complicated." I echoed the word, tasting bitter. "What does that mean for us?" He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "It means I've made mistakes. Death, I've let work consume me, and I've let my guard down with Emma, but I love you. I want to fix this if you'll let me." The sincerity in his eyes was undeniable, yet the trust was broken. The image of Emma in the background of our perfect weekend, now a permanent fixture in my mind. "I need time. Michael," I said, standing up. "I need to think about all this about us." He nodded, his expression one of resignation. "I understand, take all the time you need." That night I lay in bed. Murphy curled up beside me, his presence a small comfort in the storm of my thoughts. I replayed every moment with Michael, every late night, every distracted conversation. The realization that our life together was now a tapestry of secrets and half-truths was overwhelming. I whispered to Murphy, "What do we do now, buddy?" Question hung in the air unanswered as the last light of day faded, leaving me in the shadows of doubt and uncertainty. The next morning, I woke up with a resolve. I couldn't let this fester. I needed clarity, not just for myself, but for us. I texted Michael, "Can we talk tonight properly?" His reply was immediate. "Yes, of course." The day passed in a blur of work and worry. When evening came, Michael was waiting for me, his posture tense. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where our morning routine had once felt so normal. "Michael, I've been thinking," I started, my voice firm, "about us, about what's been happening. I need honesty, complete honesty." He nodded, his eyes meeting mine. "I owe you that, duh. I'm sorry for everything." We talked for hours, peeling back layers of our relationship, discussing the project, Emma, and the emotional distance that had grown between us. It was painful, raw, but necessary. By the end of the night, we had no solutions, but we had a starting point. Cal promised to step back from the project to prioritize us. I promised to try and rebuild the trust to communicate better. As I lay down to sleep, Murphy at my feet, I felt a fragile hope. Path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like we were facing them together. The storm was far from over, but perhaps, just perhaps, we could weather it. Truth spilled out in a torrent of tears and confessions. Michael's face went from confusion to shock, then to a pained understanding. He didn't shout. He didn't even raise his voice. Instead, he sat there processing the unimaginable. I need time was all he said before he left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the silent judgment of Murphy's gaze. I sat there, the weight of our conversation pressing down on me like a physical force. The room felt colder, the air thick with the remnants of our shattered trust. I looked at Murphy, his eyes reflecting a mix of concern and confusion, as if he too felt the fracture in our family. Hours passed, each minute, stretching into an eternity of doubt and regret. I replayed our conversation, the admissions, the pain. Michael's words echoed in my mind. I've been confused. Deaths, the project, the time we've spent together. Complicated. The word complicated felt like a knife twisting in my gut. How could something so simple as love become so convoluted? I stood up, my legs shaky, and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights that now seemed to mock the darkness within our home. Michael returned late that night. I heard the door click shut, the soft thud of his shoes hitting the floor. He stood in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the dim light from the hallway. His eyes met mine, and in them I saw a storm of emotions. Death. He started, his voice hoarse. I've been thinking about us, about what you said. I nodded, unable to speak, waiting for him to continue. I've made mistakes, he admitted, his gaze dropping to the floor. I let work consume me, and I let my guard down with Emma. But Des, I love you. I want to fix this if you'll let me. The sincerity in his eyes was undeniable, yet the trust was broken. The image of Emma in the background of our perfect weekend, now a permanent fixture in my mind. I need time. Michael, I said, my voice steadied despite the turmoil inside. I need to think about all this about us. He nodded, his expression one of resignation. I understand. Take all the time you need. That night I lay in bed. Murphy curled up beside me, his presence a small comfort in the storm of my thoughts. I replayed every moment with Michael, every late night, every distracted conversation. The realization that our life together was now a tapestry of secrets and half-truths was overwhelming. The next morning I woke up with a resolve. I couldn't let this fester. I needed clarity, not just for myself but for us. I texted Michael, "Can we talk tonight properly?" His reply was immediate. Yes, of course. The day passed in a blur of work and worry. When evening came, Michael was waiting for me, his posture tense. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where our morning routine had once felt so normal. "Michael, I've been thinking," I started, my voice firm, "about us, about what's been happening. I need honesty, complete honesty." He nodded, his eyes meeting mine. "I owe you that, duh. I'm sorry for everything." We talked for hours, peeling back layers of our relationship, discussing the project, Emma, and the emotional distance that had grown between us. It was painful, raw, but necessary. Michael explained how the project had become all-consuming, how the lines between professional and personal had blurred. I didn't mean for it to happen. Desks. Emma and I. We were just working late and then it just happened, but it's not what I want. You're what I want. His words were like a bomb, yet the wound was deep. And what about Emma? I asked, needing to know the full extent of her relationship. She's a colleague. Yes, there were moments, but they were fleeting. I've told her it has to stop that. I need to focus on us. Confession was like a key turning in a lock. Finning. A floodgate of emotions, and what now? What happens to us? Michael reached for my hand, his touch familiar, yet now laden with the weight of our shared pain. I want to rebuild what we've lost. I want to earn back your trust. Duh. I'll do whatever it takes. The meeting left me with more questions than answers. I walked back to our apartment, each step feeling like I was walking towards an inevitable confrontation. When I got home, Ka was already there. His laptop closed, a rare sight. He looked up as I entered, his eyes searching mine. "How was your day?" I sat down beside him, the distance between us feeling like a chasm. "I met Emma," I said, watching his reaction closely. His face paled slightly, but he nodded. "I see, and she told me about the project, about how close you've been working together." My voice was steady, but inside I was trembling. Michael looked down his fingers. "Tracing. The edge of the table is E." I cut him off, the words spilling out. "Michael, I need to know, are you in love with her?" The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "I've been confused. Deaths, the project, the time we've spent together. It's complicated. I echoed the word, tasting bitter. "What does that mean for us?" He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "It means I've made mistakes. Deaths, I've let work consume me, and I've let my guard down with Emma, but I love you. I want to fix this if you'll let me." The sincerity in his eyes was undeniable, yet the trust was broken. The image of Emma in the background of our perfect weekend, now a permanent fixture in my mind. "I need time. Michael," I said, standing up. "I need to think about all this about us." He nodded, his expression one of resignation. "I understand, take all the time you need." That night I lay in bed. Murphy curled up beside me, his presence a small comfort in the storm of my thoughts. I replayed every moment with Michael, every late night, every distracted conversation. The realization that our life together was now a tapestry of secrets and half-truths was overwhelming. I whispered to Murphy, "What do we do now, buddy?" Question hung in the air, unanswered as the last light of day faded, leaving me in the shadows of doubt and uncertainty. The next morning I woke up with a resolve. I couldn't let this fester. I needed clarity, not just for myself, but for us. I texted Michael, "Can we talk tonight properly?" His reply was immediate. Yes, of course. The day passed in a blur of work and worry. When evening came, Michael was waiting for me, his posture tense. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place where our morning routine had once felt so normal. "Michael, I've been thinking," I started, my voice firm, "about us, about what's been happening. I need honesty, complete honesty." He nodded, his eyes meeting mine. "I owe you that, duh. I'm sorry for everything." We talked for hours, peeling back layers of our relationship, discussing the project, Emma, and the emotional distance that had grown between us. It was painful, raw, but necessary. By the end of the night, we had no solutions, but we had a starting point. Cal promised to step back from the project to prioritize us. I promised to try and rebuild the trust, to communicate better. As I lay down to sleep, Murphy at my feet, I felt a fragile hope. Path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like we were facing them together. The storm was far from over, but perhaps, just perhaps, we could weather it. The days that followed were a blur of therapy sessions. Both individual and couples, Michael and I navigated through a sea of emotions, from anger to sorrow, from betrayal to tentative forgiveness. We learned about boundaries, about the importance of communication, and about the depth of our commitment to each other. Each session felt like peeling back layers of an onion, revealing more about ourselves and our relationship than we ever thought possible. The therapist, Dr. Ellis, guided us with a gentle hand, helping us to understand not just the surface of our issues but the roots that had been neglected for too long. I started volunteering at an animal shelter, channeling my guilt into something positive, helping animals find homes. The shelter became my sanctuary, a place where I could focus on giving love and care without the weight of my own mistakes hanging over me. Each beautiful dog or cat I helped, each smile I brought to a new pet owner's face was a step towards redemption, towards healing. Michael, on his part, made changes too. He reduced his hours at work, ensuring he was home more often. He started cooking dinners, something he had rarely done before, and we'd sit together sharing stories about our day, trying to rebuild the connection that had frayed. His efforts were sincere, his eyes often meeting mine with a mix of hope and apology. As for Murphy, he remained our faithful companion, his love unconditional, teaching us both about forgiveness in ways we never expected. His presence was a constant reminder of what we could aspire to be for each other: loyal, forgiving, and loving without conditions. The therapy sessions continued, and with each one we delved deeper. One evening, after a particularly intense session, Michael and I sat on our porch, the night air cool against our skin. Michael began, his voice soft. I've been thinking a lot about what we've been through, about how I let things get out of hand. I looked at him, the moonlight casting shadows over his face. I know, Michael, I've been thinking too about my part in all this. He took my hand, his touch tentative. I want us to move forward, but I understand if you need more time, if you need space. I squeezed his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against mine. I want to move forward too, Michael, but it's not just about moving on. It's about building something new, something stronger. He nodded, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I agree, and I want to be part of that. I want to earn your trust back every single day. We sat in silence for a while, the only sounds being the distant hum of the city and Murphy's soft snoring at our feet. I've been volunteering at the shelter, I said, changing the subject slightly, feeling the need to share something positive. It's been healing. Co smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. I'm glad, Dee. Maybe I could come with you sometime. Help out. The offer felt like a bridge, a way to reconnect not just with each other but with the world around us. I'd like that, I replied, feeling a warmth spread through me. Our relationship was forever changed, now built on a foundation of transparency and hard-earned trust. We were both different people than we were before the storm hit. Michael was more open, more present, and I was learning to voice my needs, to not let my emotions fester in silence. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while it didn't feel bleak. We had tools now, from therapy, from our own experiences, to navigate the complexities of our lives together. As we sat there, I thought about what the future might hold for Destiny, Michael, and Murphy. There would be more therapy sessions, more moments of doubt, but also moments of joy, of laughter, and of shared growth. We would continue to volunteer together, perhaps even adopt another pet, expanding our family in a way that symbolized our commitment to healing and moving forward. Michael squeezed my hand, bringing me back to the present. Whatever happens, I want you to know, I'm here for the good and the bad. I leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling the weight of our shared history and the promise of our future. I know, Michael, and I'm here too. We'll figure this out together with Murphy by our side. We watched the stars, a silent pact forming between us, a commitment to face whatever came next with open hearts and a renewed sense of partnership. Path was not clear, but it was ours, and that in itself was a start. My story ends here. If you feel that this story is meaningful and brings useful lessons, please like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next videos.